Growing up, I was never that big of a Star Trek fan, and I was quite the opposite, actually. I was a Star Wars fan. Now, see, Star Wars kind of scratched that sci-fi itch that seemed to be kind of missing in Star Trek's premise for me. It had that action and speed that I really cling to, which really hooked me when I was younger, and let's be honest, we've all kind of dreamed about having a lightsaber before. Anyhow, Star Trek always gave me that more calculated kind of sci-fi feel when there was so much going on, and to know that it really kind of felt hard or even at times impossible to get into being that young. And now I'm 23 and movies and shows have never been more accessible than now, so I'm starting to kind of build up my curiosity for the franchise, and I'm on the verge of watching the original show from 1966. The point of this video isn't about watching Star Trek OG, though it's more of an appreciation for the modern era Star Trek. Specifically, the Kelvin timeline. Wait, okay, so what is the Kelvin timeline, though? So basically, near the end of the 2000s, Star Trek had previously kind of seen a drop in popularity with its previous iterations, such as Star Trek Nemesis and Enterprise, which kind of saw a slow ending from 2001 to 2005. And Paramount was looking for its next big thing with one of its biggest IPs in company's history. Now, there were several pitches for a new Star Trek media that came in a whole assortment of ideas, but the one that seemed to stick was rebooting the universe. Well, sort of. We would see this new trilogy of movies hone two directors, with J.J. Abrams directing the first two films, Star Trek 2009 and Into the Darkness, while Justin Lin finished off the trilogy with 2016's Star Trek Beyond. With a new yet familiar kind of timeline, we would get a more action-packed and somewhat, from my understanding, shift of characters' personalities in the slightest ways. I thought it'd be neat to talk about this trilogy for an assortment of reasons. It is the only iteration I've actually really seen, and it's probably top 3 trilogies for me of all time. So yeah, I'm Hunter from Hunnera, and as always, don't forget to hit those essentials as they really help me out, and let's get into this new past iteration of the Final Frontier.
Enlist in Starfleet.
You guys must be way down on your recruiting quota for the month.
Well, if you're half the man your father was, Jim, Starfleet could use you.
With this newer iteration of Star Trek, we would need to find a compelling cast to play the likes of the original characters, James T. Kirk, and the crew of the USS Enterprise. We got some what I think to, at least visually and acting-wise, be some of the best choices that very well could be. Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto were casted to play the two most iconic characters, James Tiberius Kirk and Spock. I don't even know how to go about that. But we'll just stick to Spock for now. The way they handle themselves in these roles are really the highlight for me, though, because their chemistry and the way that they show how they build their relationship and care about each other just echoes that feeling I heard about the original series.
That's a nice move.
It is what you would have done.
And this is what you would have done. It was only logical. I'm scared, Spock. Help me not be. How do you choose not to feel?
I do not know.
While Spock in this timeline is way more open with his emotions and the way that he shows it, James can be kind of a bit brash and hard-headed, but it's really the way he's kind of compelled and his dedication to breaking the norms that really shows his character in that kind of likable light for me. Now, other cast members for the Enterprise are Anton Yelchin is the young and eager Chekhov, rest his soul. Carl Urban is Leonard McCoy, aka Bones. Zoe Saldana is Nyota Uhura. And then you have Simon Pegg and the boy John Cho as Scotty and Sulu, taking the reins from George Takei. With that being said, the first movie, while probably being my favorite out of the 3, it's not without its problems, though. So in order to get to these characters and where they're kind of needed, there's like a lot of strings that need to be pulled in 2 hours and 7 minutes for this movie. You know, we need to successfully get this cast to their kind of main positions on the USS Enterprise, So condensing that, it's like a single path. I am jumping ahead though when it comes to this movie and what it's about. One thing that I love about this movie is not only do we see this crew come together, but the way it starts and plays out. While not having watched the original shows and movies, I can still kind of have a respect for it and the characters within it. The plot, while creating something new, also connects with the power of time travel.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine?
In this timeline, Spock is being chased through time by the Romulans from the future, seeking vengeance after Spock promised, but ultimately kind of failed on saving the planet Romulus from an exploding supernova. Whilst moving through time, Eric Bana, Nero,
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
and his crew run into the USS Kelvin. Some banter later, we see the events of George Kirk, James's father, basically piloting to... Fuck, why am I starting to talk like Chris Hemsworth? James's father piloting the Kelvin while the rest of the ship evacuates for 12 minutes until he makes that play to save the lives of his crew. Flash forwarding to Iowa, let's go Hawkeyes! We see a young and troubled Kirk has a tough time growing up, kind of showing that he has this promise to him, but it's also unguided until Christopher Pine dares him to be half the man his dad was.
Your father was captain of a starship for 12 minutes.
He saved 800 lives, including your mother's and yours.
I dare you to do better.
So Kirk and Bones meet up on this ship leaving for Academy, and we move forward 3 years where the movie starts to actually kick off. From then, we see the events of this movie unfold, with these characters gaining their respectable positions, and the battle with Nero takes way. One of the ways it connects to the originals, while also branching off into its own kind of universe, is through the character of Spock. As mentioned above, Spock has been chased through time, but the Spock we see being chased is actually Leonard Nimoy's version from the original show and movies, which is an interesting take for having two Spock in this timeline where Vulcan is destroyed by Nero, which, side note, I don't know if Vulcan was destroyed in the OG timeline or not. I'm not gonna assume it was, and they just did it for this timeline via Nero, because why not? The destruction, however, is the catalyst for one of the best scenes in this trilogy between Spock and Kirk. Knowing how Vulcans are supposed to repress showing their emotions because they understand them deeper, we see Kirk kinda edge Spock to the point of breakdown just so he can regain control of the USS Enterprise.
Your planet was just destroyed, your mother murdered, and you're not even upset.
If you are presuming that these experiences in any way impede my ability to command this ship, you are mistaken.
And yet you were the one who said fear was necessary for command. I mean, did you see his ship? Do you see what he did?
Yes, of course I did.
So are you afraid or aren't you?
I will not allow you to lecture me about the merits of emotion.
Then why don't you stop me?
Step away from me, Mr.
What is it like not to feel anger or heartbreak or the need to stop at nothing to avenge the death of the woman who gave birth to you?
Back away from
You
me.
feel nothing! It must not even compute for you. You never loved her.
That being said, on a technical standpoint, this newer version not only gives a more saturated feeling for these characters and this universe, but also plays heavily into the spectacle that is Star Trek Kelvin, essentially. Visually, the movies are so contrasted, whether it's the expanding shot of the USS Enterprise in space, or the many battles that take place within the film, my favorite moment being the hyperspace attack from 2013's Into Darkness.
I'm getting a reading I don't understand.
We get harder commentary from these characters and a lot more emotion, while the sound and score of the trilogy is just beautiful. Man, Michael Giacchino being the composer for the newer sound of this iteration takes a more cinematic and spectacle feel, whether that's Star Trek's theme or the specific melodies such as Enterprising Young Men, To Boldly Go, or even Back from Black.
I didn't win any points for that.
Oh, Jim, calm down.
I'm not going to take ethics lessons from a robot.
Reverting to name-calling suggests that you are defensive and therefore find my opinion valid.
I wasn't asking for your opinion. Bones, get that thing off my face.
Captain?
After mainly talking about the first movie and what worked with it, mainly the story and casting, there are a whole 2 more movies that continue the story within this universe. Now, knowing 0 to none about the Wrath of Khan, except that I really want to watch it, Into Darkness takes the character of Khan and Kirk and really pins them up against each other for this new take. Khan being played by the man himself, Benedict Cumberbatch. Kirk trying and wanting to do what's right even if it breaks the rules of Starfleet, finally meets his match when he loses the one closest to him, Christopher Pine, the captain who had originally dared him to do better, basically. Now, throughout this story, Kirk being lied to and guided by the likes of Admiral Marcus and Khan, we see this story break down from the basis that Marcus wants to cover up his past doings with Khan, and promising safety for his people, kind of just ends up lying in the long run. While I like this movie, it's not without its problems though. We get events in this movie like Kirk being sent back to Starfleet Academy after altering the course of a planet's history while on a supposed observe and report mission, but only to get his position back within minutes due to Pine's death by the hands of Khan. And now, I'm gonna show you the real death of hands by Khan.
You should have let me sleep.
But the fact that they weren't supposed to interact, and Spock is a by-the-book type of guy, he was actively kind of involved with preserving this people's place in history. However, I kind of just chalk it up to Kirk off-screen pulling rank on him and making him do it. And we all know Vulcan could be a moving factor. Just delivering an alright movie, there honestly is a lot I could want throughout the story, and for it being the same length as the original, I feel like it could have done more. But that's a whole discussion within of itself. Now, flash forward a couple years later to 2016, beyond being the last in the trilogy for reasons I'll go over soon, shows the crew shipless and under the attack of a newer enemy named Krall, a once human played by Idris Elba. This ex-Starfleet member and his people go under changes and look like aliens due to the environment and technology of an ancient planet.
What happened to you out there, Edison?
Edison. I have to say, Kirk, I've missed being me. We lost ourselves, but gained a purpose. A means to bring the galaxy back to the struggle that made humanity strong.
This movie delves deeper into the more spectacle and less grounded version of this timeline. All things considered, whether it's the people or places we see, it gets more futuristic and crafty with how it takes the story. Without going too much into it being the last movie, Kirk, wanting more and a different change in life, wants to move on from his life as captain, and goes kind of through this journey of understanding of what it makes being a captain so special, and eventually kind of gives off our send-off for this timeline.
Space. The final frontier.
These are the voyages of the starship
Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds,
to seek out new life
and new civilizations.
to boldly go where no one has gone before.
These sequels, while not topping the original 2009 movie, provide that sort of feeling of journey and episodic nature I feel like I would get from watching the original series. It gives that wider episode of a week feel, and honestly feels warm and world-opening rather than a clear A to B kind of style for this trilogy. What makes these movies special for me isn't the fact that I was familiar with the likes of these movies and characters before, but for the fact that it's easily accessible for me. It provides a fresh take for a newer audience while still having some touchback for the older and more loyal fan base. While not being perfect and having flaws or changes I'm sure OGs can point out way better than me, it takes and does what it can with this IP, you know, gathering actors who you can tell really care about the story they're trying to tell. Alright, now catch this. Now with that being said, we were actually supposed to get a 4th installment into this timeline, but there were some rumblings for a while. The main thought is that there was some discourse with the pay actors we're gonna get on this next movie, and whether that be right or wrong, I'm still kind of craving another movie, and I hope that someday we actually can get that, but at the same time, I'm not too heartbroken over it, as we got 3 movies at least at the end of the day. And you also gotta factor in that with the cast and where their career is at now, it would be really hard to kind of pull that off all in one sitting, and with the tragic passing of Anton Yelchin. You never know though, it could happen. I mean, this happened and I'm pretty sure of us thought that it was impossible back in the day.
I want you to know why I couldn't let you die. Why I went back for you.
Because you are my friend.
Try and give this trilogy a watch. You know, it may take some time, but you'll gain the respect and love for these characters and stories, and hopefully crave more. I know I have, and I've been wanting to go and watch the original series and shows like Deep Space Nine, so I hope you guys really like this video. It's very different from what I usually talk about when it comes to movies and stuff. I'd like to hear your opinions in the comments below, and don't forget,
live long and prosper.
Big order!
What time do they stop serving breakfast?
It's 3 o'clock.
Some of them serve breakfast all day.
None of them serve breakfast all day!
Do they have beer?